Hey there, Abiding fam, and welcome back to my Abiding Journal, or hello if you are new. My name is Kelsey Lee, and today I'm so excited to share with you my process for documenting one of my favorite trips of the last few years to the Adirondack Mountains. If you've been with me for a while, you will probably recognize these spreads from my 2020 flip through, but I'm excited today to actually show you how the pages came together. I think there's a lot of value from actually seeing the process from start to finish, blank page to abiding memories. So let's dive right in. It's important to note that I was not starting with a completely blank page because I had a little bit of bleed through from stamping I did on the previous page. That's not something I struggle with too often when using my Moleskine Cahier notebooks, which is what you see me using here, but it does happen every now and then when there's a really pigmented ink that I'm using. So in order to address the problem of having bleed through, I try to just use it as an opportunity and be creative, either by making it part of the entry or by covering it up. And in this case, I went for the avenue of just covering it up. I did some stenciling using a little sponge dauber and stamp ink through a stencil to create these little tree outlines. And then also decided to bring in some craft paper to cover up the rest of the ink that was coming through. And then this ultimately became the design for the entire page. And I'm in some ways so grateful that I had that bleed through because I don't know that I would have come up with this design had I not been starting from the point of trying to cover up the bleed through I experienced from the previous page. So now I brought in this really great little border strip that I had in my stash. I don't honestly remember where I got this from, but you could easily create your own little tree border just by cutting out paper by hand or by using a Cricut machine. And of course, you don't have to use trees. You also could just do a really rough, wavy line and make it look like the silhouette of a mountain. So I had a little piece of the tree border that extended off the page, and I decided to just trim that off and use it as another layer within this little tree collage that I'm creating. And so I lifted up some of the craft paper and stuck it underneath that. That's the thing with layering. I'm always trying to build texture and layers on the page. And sometimes it means that I've put something down and decide that it's not quite right and I need to add something else underneath it. And luckily, it's usually not too hard to finesse things and make it work in the end. But it is always a good idea, if you can, to try and lay everything out when you know that you're going to be layering before you start gluing anything down. So I, once again, am bringing in more layers, this time with another little strip of craft paper, which translation means pieces of a brown paper bag. I always recommend using recycled materials instead of buying craft paper. So by layering the stamping with the paper trees and the rough look of the craft paper, I was able to create a really neat collage that represents the Adirondacks very well. But I also wanted to incorporate many photos, and so that was my next challenge, was to figure out how to bring in the many photos that I took on this trip. And I decided to create back-to-back collages. This is something I do a lot in my journaling when documenting bigger memories and trips because I love to use photos and it's hard to incorporate them all into an entry. So I like to create collages using the Pic Collage app, and then by putting them back to back, I'm able to have even more photos incorporated. And sometimes I do this in a way where I create a tip in my journal by using washi tape. In this case, I'm actually going to just stick these directly into the journal entry, but have them loose so that I can pull them out and flip them over and really admire all of the photos. And the way I did this was by creating these little label tabs at the top of them so that you're not pulling on the photo and getting your fingerprints all over it as much. and then creating pockets, which I'm going to show you in a little bit how that worked. But you might notice that I only had 5 photos. So what I did is I backed the 5th photo with craft paper. So this allowed me to have even more room for my journaling, and in this case it worked out really well because you might be able to tell that all of the photos in this collage are related to climbing Mount Marcy, which is the tallest peak in the Adirondacks. And so on that craft paper, I did all of my journaling specifically about climbing that mountain. Now, if you've ever been to the Adirondacks, you know that getting to the mountains is in itself a challenge. You have to climb over boulders and planks and walk up ladders, and it's just a really insane path to even get to the different peaks. And so I tried to represent that by doing these little doodles of the things we came across on the bottom. And then I have this great sticker pack of the high peaks because there are 46 of them. And it is a thing to try to climb all 46 peaks in one's lifetime. And so that is something that is on Ben's bucket list. And so I created a little strip that documents the progress on this trip, which was 4 peaks. And I put each of the peaks stickers there on the left page. And then I also documented how many he's already done and how far he still has to go. And as I said, I did some journaling just about Mount Marcy on the flip side of that collage of photos, and then did my journaling about the trip in its entirety, obviously there across the back. And then what I did is I didn't tape down the tops of the trees so that it would act as a little way of holding my photo collages, as well as a little pamphlet from the inn that we stayed in after we were done backpacking, onto the page. Obviously, they're not totally anchored in, but it provides a little bit of a pocket to keep them where they need to be when I'm not opening my journal. And then I can easily pull them out to read my journaling and look at all of the photos on both sides. So I hope that you have enjoyed this process video and that it inspires you to try documenting your own travels and memories. And I would love to know if you try any of the techniques I shared in this video, like doing the stenciling with stamp ink, or the layered collage, or even creating pockets with multiple photos in a collage that you can pull out and admire. Let me know down in the comments. And as I said, if you want to see what the cover page process is like, you can check out the journal with me over on my Patreon. And of course, there is more right here on YouTube, so click here to watch all of my journal with me's or my latest video for more ways to explore your creativity and document a life abiding in faith, hope, and love.